You know, with these harvests, one of the things we've been trying to do is to save at least 2 days worth of vegetables and preserving them per day. Guten Yardening, everybody! Well, it's a beautiful early August day, which means our garden is in full swing. We are getting tons of production from both our fruits and our vegetables. And today I want to take you on a harvest tour because I want to show you some of the amazing food that we're getting out of our garden space. Food like our Chicago hardy fig. Take a look at this beautiful fresh fig. Now, we've already eaten about 8 of these figs from our first year Chicago hardy fig, and that's just a small part of what we have growing here. Now, in the last month, we've had so many of our fruits and vegetables begin to ripen and come ready to harvest, and that's super important as we're trying to feed our family 365 days a year the produce that we grow here in our garden space. So let's take a look at some of that fresh organic produce that we're pulling out of our garden right now. Now, right under here, this is our second fig of the day. So we got 2 fresh Chicago hardy figs off of our plant today. And considering about 8 months ago this looked just like a little tiny twig, I would say we're getting some amazing growth off this plant. Now, one of the things we've been harvesting a lot of this year are our eggplants, and we grew 3 different varieties to see how they perform. And we've been satisfied with each of those varieties so far. And a couple of our rabbits have also been satisfied with some of our low-hanging eggplant. I didn't know that rabbits liked eggplant, but apparently they do. Now, we typically harvest our eggplant when it's just about this size or a little bit smaller. I tend to like the smaller eggplant. But one of the things we like about our eggplant is that it's really easy to freeze. We typically blanch ours with a little bit of lemon juice and freeze it, and it tastes really nice when it's cooked in soups afterwards or even steamed. I think steamed tastes really nice as well. Now, I'm not sure if I have a favorite variety, but these are a bright purple and I think they're just absolutely beautiful. Now, I don't use this term lightly, but these really are a prolific producer of fruits. We have so many on here. The plants themselves are very healthy, but I think if you're trying to feed your family, here's another one down in here, it's not quite ready yet, but if you're trying to feed your family all year long, this vegetable makes a strong case to be included in the garden. All right, I'm not going to show you me harvesting all of these, but I'm going to go ahead and harvest from a lot of our other plants, and then I'm going to show you what that full eggplant harvest looks like. Now, hopefully you can see these eggplant here along the back of our backyard and space, and we've got them all along the back fence area here. So that's where I'm going to be harvesting a whole bunch more of these eggplant. You can even see a couple of them hanging out down here. One thing I should mention is that with our eggplant, we found that we don't want to leave them out too long, maybe a day or 2 on the table. And it's definitely best, if at all possible, to get them preserved right away. Well, some of these were definitely hiding from me, but let's take a look at our eggplant harvest for today. Look at this awesome pile of purple, and they're in excellent shape. I'd say we've harvested 3 or 4 times this many already. I mean, we've been harvesting these now for the last couple of weeks. And so again, we're able to put these away into storage. I'd love to know your favorite eggplant recipe. And if you have a technique other than freezing, if you don't just blanch and freeze, we'd love to know what your technique is for preserving these that you think taste really good afterward. All right, on with the harvest. One of the varieties of vegetables that we tried for the first time last season and we wanted to try again this season is our okra. And this particular variety is a dwarf okra, so it doesn't get quite as tall as some of the okra that we grew last year, but we're already seeing some fruit on here and some beautiful flowers. Take a look at these beautiful flowers in here. And then all of these that are going to develop here, we're gonna have so many okra. And this okra right here is all ready. Now, last year we made a mistake and we left some of our okra on here too long and it got woody, and that is definitely not a texture you want. So we're gonna try to harvest them a little bit earlier this year so we don't have that problem. But these that are developing up top, they're not quite there yet. A couple more days on those and we all set. Now, we're growing quite a few varieties of cabbage out here in our front yard and space and in our main garden space this year. and they're starting to really put on their heads. And this one is really nice. It's got a nice firm head on it. It's ready to come out. There's a tiny bit of damage up top, but that's not going to create a problem for us. So I'm going to go ahead and get this one out of the ground, just like so. And take a look at that. That is a beautiful head of cabbage, and we got lots more coming out our way soon. They might expect this growing in zone 5, but none of our Brussels sprouts are ready yet. However, we are starting to see some beautiful development here with our purple Brussels sprouts, and this one in particular is one that survived the winter, and you can see them right down in here. This one we thought would just be going to seed, but we're getting some Brussels sprouts on here. But interestingly, a few of the varieties that we planted this season haven't really grown up very tall. You can see you have the Brussels sprouts coming in, and this is just a typical green variety, but we're only about a foot off the ground. Now, last year's Brussels sprouts that we grew were a couple of feet tall, so I'm not exactly sure why that's the case right now. If anyone has any suggestions as to why that might be, we would love to hear them. Now, as far as tomatoes go, we actually have quite a few growing this year. We typically focus far more on cherry tomato varieties and grape tomatoes, but we did get a couple of Rutgers. I think these are the only ones that we bought that we didn't grow from seed, and you can see they're producing tomatoes nicely. None of them ripe yet, but that shouldn't be too far down the line for these. Now, our other tomatoes, which we have planted in our main garden space here, you can see a couple of them right alongside our beans trellised up. The production of these has been really nice, and this year we've been trimming them back and thinning them out a lot, because otherwise this whole area would be overrun. We wouldn't be able to get access to any of our eggplants back in here. And we also have an area directly beside our compost bin where we've dedicated just to tomatoes, and then a few onions are trying to survive underneath. And you can see these tomatoes are also doing really nicely. We got lots of fruit, and we've been harvesting fruit off these for a while. I do want to show you something kind of cool about this. The tomato plant right beside the compost garden is this nice deep green, and about 1.5 feet over, the green on this is still nice, but it's a lighter shade of green. And my thought is that the compost, when it rains, when we water this, is leaching into the soil, meaning that right beside the bin is a healthier growing area than farther down. That also means we need to take some time and add a little bit of fertilizer and feed those tomatoes. They are, I would say, a good 4 feet tall at this point, and again, producing very nicely. And one other thing I want to point out, and then I'll show you the little harvest that I have here from these tomatoes, is that these are all growing in various areas around our property. We, again, tend not to plant everything all in one spot. These tomatoes are the ones that were growing right above our garlic that we harvested for the first time a couple of weeks ago. And they're probably the biggest ones here, maybe the second biggest tomatoes. Really nice size, and again, great blossom, great fruit production on here. You can see the green tomatoes everywhere. So in the next couple of weeks, we are going to be harvesting a ton of these tomatoes. Now, here along the back side of our side garden where our corn is growing, we also have a few more tomatoes, and I'm bringing you in here to show you because they are magnificent looking. I'm not actually sure even the variety of this one, but again, this is a beautiful piece of garden candy. Now, isn't this magnificent? I mean, just look at all the beautiful color in here. It's going to be so tasty, and we're getting this much, you know, every other day, and the plants are just now starting to ripen. Now, we're growing a wide variety of our winter squash. This is the Canadian crookneck squash, and these plants have been pretty successful so far. You can see a couple of them right here, and we have more farther down. We also have some kabocha squash here, which are looking really nice. And we're growing some delicata, and these are about the size they're gonna get to. But again, everything here, these are winter squash, which need to ripen up. We've even got a squash that decided to try to grow in between our trellising. It doesn't seem to be treating them too well. Now, I'm sure those winter squash will be ready before we know it, but we already have some summer squash. Take a look at these to harvest. Now, we've been growing summer squash much more successfully the last 2 years. You can see what I'm talking about. This is a little bit bigger than we usually harvest it, but that is a wonderful summer squash. This one is more along the size of what we like to harvest. Take a look at that. Isn't that beautiful? And we've also been harvesting a ton of zucchini. Now our zucchini over here is in our compost bin. This is a massive plant, and the zucchini inside are growing like crazy. We've already harvested a ton out of here, and they're growing so quickly it's hard to catch them before they turn into monsters like this. I'm going to go ahead and cut this one out and the one right above it and see if there's anything else in here. Well, I pulled these two out and there are more in here. There's another giant in there, so I got to get that one out too. Now, if you've grown zucchini before, you know that this size is not ideal because it tends to be a little tougher, but we just got a vegetable spiralizer, and that makes a huge difference in taste. Now over here we have our Rondenise squash, and this is the same variety of summer squash that we were growing in our containers, and that our squash vine borer, there you see one right there, our squash vine borer killed, and we had to replace. And there's another bigger one growing right in behind here, kind of camouflage. So I'm going to get down in here and harvest what we have here that's ready. Well, here's a better view of that Rondenise squash, and you can see all of the future squash plants coming in. And I'm going to move right back in here so you can see the bigger one right there. And that's the one that I want to get out of here to start. It's very similar in many ways, I would say, to a zucchini. I'll take a look at those two right there. There's another one kind of hiding off to the side back here. I've got to get these harvested, and then I'll show you what that harvest looks like. You know, with these harvests, one of the things we've been trying to do is to save at least 2 days worth of vegetables and preserving them per day. And so far we've been able to do that, or sometimes go far beyond that. And that's really helped us as a goal to prep for this winter and over the next couple of months. So what is your goal of preserving vegetables to make sure that you have enough for the winter time? Now, as a part of this harvest tour, I have to pull up the carrots that are behind me, and there's a nice variety of carrots in here. Now, recently my daughter did a video where she talked about how to pick the biggest carrots. Well, we need to replace what's in here with the next set of crops, and so I'm going to pull them up, even though I know some of them aren't going to be as big as we'd like. But let's go ahead and get these carrots out of the ground. Now, we have 5 different varieties of carrots in here, some of them orange, red, yellow like these. Not huge, but these are really nice looking carrots nonetheless. And these yellow ones are the Untitled, really pretty yellow. Some of these I think are varieties that would be better planted here in the fall rather than when we planted them initially. But I'm going to go ahead and pull the rest of these out of the ground, and I'll show you. Here's one that didn't quite make it. I'll show you the different colors along the way. It looks like over here we have some of our, these are our Danvers half-longs. Oh, there we go. That's a nice fat one. After a nice heavy rain, some of these seeds probably moved around a little bit. But there we go. We got some really nice looking Danvers carrots in here. Boy, the smell of this harvest is so nice. Now, using my daughter's method of trying to feel for a platform, I feel a pretty nice one around this. I think this is going to be a little bit bigger. Oh, take a look at that. That might be one of the nicest, most perfect carrots I've ever harvested. Look at that. Lots of these nice cosmic purple carrots. Inside this, it's a bright red. All right, let's check out a couple of these Lunar Whites. Isn't that beautiful? It looks more like a turnip than it does a carrot, but it definitely has the taste of a carrot. And these should be our Liberica yellow. Yeah, look at that. This is a perfect carrot. Wonderful. And these are our Kyoto reds. These are red inside and out, and it's this vibrant, like a fire red. I think these are my favorite looking. Well, this bed is empty of all carrots. The only thing we have left in here is a pepper, a tomato, and this eggplant, which I didn't harvest from, but it's got lots of eggplant on it. So we can add our next succession planting here, and our harvest is over here. I'm going to clean that up a little bit. I'm going to show you what we got. Well, here they are, and I have to say the Kyoto red performed really nicely. The one that I would say that underperformed the most were our Lunar Whites. I mean, we got a couple of decent sized carrots here, but they didn't do that well. I absolutely love our cosmic purple. I think they're fantastic. Our Untitled did pretty well, and We might think our Danvers heffalongs didn't do all that well, but my daughter has harvested a whole bunch of these already. And the next crop we have going in to replace it, we have some wonderful broccoli plants that we started from seed. Let's get them in the bed. And there you see the benefit of having the next crop ready to go as soon as you're done harvesting the last one. So all these broccoli plants in here now. We took out the tomato plant that was left over because it really wasn't going to do anything except take up too much space in here. So we still have a pepper plant, and we have our beautiful eggplant. But now we refertilize this, and these are ready to grow. In a recent video, we showed you just how prolific our bean plants were in all the different areas where we're growing them. And we have tons still to harvest every single day. And here's today's harvest of beans. You can see we waited just about a day too long, and so a couple of them are a little bit big. You gotta stay on top of your beans, but man, so many this year. Well, there is certainly way more than I've shown you growing here at Guten Yardening, and I can't wait to share all of that with you. In fact, I want to do a full tour in an upcoming video very soon, so stay tuned for that. Well, we hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to give us a like, leave us a comment, remember to share and subscribe, and remember, when you're with us, you are good to grow.